Hello and welcome back to the channel. This is going to be an updated video on using SQLite database with Ionic framework, specifically Vue.js for this project. And this will just be a basic setup. I currently have a course on Udemy that's about 2 years old that needs to get updated because it's about to get pulled down. And so what I'll do is I will update that course and it'll be more advanced than what I'm providing here. This is just a basic setup. And what we're going to do is we're going to follow the installation instructions here to get it installed. But in the end, there is their reference that they provide. If we scroll down, scroll, they have sample apps. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take this Vite Vue SQLite app and use that as our starting point. And then added some more CRUD to it, because this sample app just basically gets it configured, gets it installed, and then that's it. So we'll do more. The other thing is that here how they talk about using this Sense component called Jeep SQLite based on SQLite.js to get it to work in the browser. We'll also show that integrated, because I know a lot of us, we build a lot of work in the browser and just go on device when we need to. Although I just spoke to a friend of mine who basically says he does everything on device, doesn't even use simulator. So also the focus of this, I'll build everything with to deploy on my iOS simulator, and then at the end we'll circle back around and see what changes we need to make to get it to run properly on Android. So please make sure you like and subscribe, and let's get to the code. So to save some time, what I've done already is I created a basic Vue project. So you can see here I used the Ionic start command with Capacitor. I named the thing, and then it ran and it set everything up. And I need to go to my directory Vue Ionic SQLite. But before we get there, we saw that there are some not dependencies, but NPM packages that need to get installed, because right now it's just a basic Ionic application. So we need to install the plugin, and then we need to install. I'm not sure if this installs the SQLite and the SQL, but we'll install this first and we'll see what we get. So let's copy this, and we'll go down here. I've already changed it to my directory. Make this a little bit bigger for everyone. One more time. Where is it? Okay, gotta move it up a bit. Paste this command in here and let it install. It's complaining because, it's trying to run the sync, but I haven't done a build yet. So npm run build. I think I'll run, all right, so it built it, and I'll run that install again just to make sure that it gets installed right. Okay, so it looks like everything installed right. So now let's go into Xcode. Did I say Xcode? I meant Visual Studio Code, and see what we got here. Let's check. Let me zoom this in a bit. All right, let's check inside of our node modules to see if we got everything we need installed. It's just SQL. Yep, so we have our SQL and then our Jeep. I think that had a A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, Jeep SQLite. All right, so it looks like we have everything that we need installed already. Let's look at the code here. Let me collapse this down and take up more of the screen since we have it. And if I go into my source, my app, it's got the basic setup. All right, we have our homepage view. For those who watch my videos, you know I'm always going to rip this stuff out. So we leave the header and take this out of the content. And now we have our main TS. And then, okay. So let's go to our Ionic plugin and run our web browser. And let this run. We'll leave a little space over here. What we're going to do, we'll take this web browser window and we'll kind of pull it over to the side. And this is where our fun will begin. And I think that there should be plenty of room for code. And okay, that's okay. We're not going to use the Nexus browser. Okay, so now let's get back to our documentation. So let's go here. And like I said, we're going to use this. This is the Ionic Vue. Oh no. We're here. And let's scroll down to the Vue app that they mentioned. So here's the Vue vite SQLite. Let's open this and take a look at what they got going on. Is there anything interesting? This is just their setup. Of course, you must have a capacitor config, but you don't necessarily need any of this additional information in here. In fact, for the basic program that we're building just to get it up and running, you don't need any of this. And we're going to get Android later, so there's nothing specific that we need to do for iOS. So let's start to take a look at what they have in the code and how they've set this application up. So, well, first let's check the vite config to make sure there's no additional configuration. It looks like there is, so we're just going to copy this whole. Let's see what we have in our default plugins for Ionic with vite config. So, vite config. Let's go down here. We have a plugins, so I can't just completely overwrite that. But inside of Vue, they have some extra stuff. So the template, they have some compiler options. Don't know if we necessarily need this, but let's just copy it because it's what they say to do. So that's what we will do, and we'll paste that in there. I did run into some vite compiler issues when I was writing some sample code myself. But let's see if we get this working. Like I said, I wrote a much more complex solution. All right, so we have our vite config set up. And what we'll do is we'll just kind of copy this guy's code to get it going and then move on from there. The one thing to note is that this, so if you look in this package JSON, you see they're copying this SQL file. Where is it? You need to get this SQL wasm file out of the node modules directory and move it into your public assets directory. So we're not going to copy it. We're not going to write a complex script to do it. We're just going to go to our node modules directory. I mean, you could write the script if you want to. I'll include the link that I'm referencing here, and if you want to copy some stuff out of that out of that package JSON and add it to yours, feel free to. So SQL.js dist SQL wasm, I believe is what we need. SQL wasm, yes, and it needs to be. So where is this? SQL wasm. Let's copy this. And it needs to be in public. Where are they putting it? Public assets. That actually is configurable, but we're not going to do that right now. We're just going to follow along. So ASSETS, and then we'll just paste the file in there. So now we have the SQL wasm in the assets directory in public assets. So we've done that. Now let's go to his main TS where he's doing all of the work. So, so let's kind of talk about what's going on here. With this Jeep SQLite, this is how you're getting SQLite to work in the browser. So what they're doing is they're waiting for the basically page should be loaded. That will ensure that this custom element Jeep SQLite is in the DOM, and then we start the process of initializing everything. So let's start the process ourselves in our code and see what we get. So let's just, should I just copy it all and go? Or, no, let's just do it bit by bit. So we could just test each bit along the way. So we know we need all of this stuff. So let's go to main, close this, and we go to main TS. Those are all the additional imports that we needed, so I can just put them down here. And since we're going to be doing most of the work inside of main, we could probably close this for now and get it moved over. So we have our imports. Then we need to define our custom elements. So let's go back and put these guys in. And then this whole window listener, also notice that it has everything wrapped inside of it. So nothing gets done until this block executes successfully. So we will just start here. We'll copy this. And we'll put it down here. And we know that this whole thing is included in the block, so we'll just wrap the block now. So we're waiting for this event to get fired, and then we're going to get the platform, and we're going to utilize that. Well, actually, let's do, I have my browser. Oh, it's already complaining about something. Let's see what it's complaining about. Could I move this to the bottom? All right. Move the dock to the bottom. Console. It looks like I'm throwing some except. I don't know what is going on, but let's just follow along. Also, we know we need to wrap this whole thing in a try catch, so let's do that. So I'm going to do a try catch, and then we want to kind of console log our error. And am I using TypeScript? I believe I am, so we're just going to do this as any, and then pull the message and log it. All right, so there do not appear to be any messages. So why is it mounting my router? Let's just see. Console. All right, so it's the web, SQLite capacitor. And let's see what we get here. This is just some debugging to make sure things are going okay. And we have basically our SQLite is there. What I don't understand is my router's ready, then mount app view, ion router, and my router is there. So why is it not main TS? Router is ready. Oh, all this stuff needs to be in the block also, my bad. Let's get this down here. All right, so I tracked down why my UI isn't showing. It's this custom element includes tag, which we don't want. So we're going to remove that for now. I suspect we might get another vite issue, optimization issue, but we can address that later. I have another approach, but I don't want to introduce it unless I absolutely need to. But let's get back on track here. So we are not using this compiler option. that they had in their vite sample. So I'll also make another note of that in the README. So now let's get back to the code. So as you can see, we have the web, we know our platform, so we can delete that. SQLite's getting loaded correctly, so we can delete that also. So now let's get back to following along with his example. All right, so now where we are trying to get our database connection and make the appropriate modifications. So let's just, do we already have our try-catch? We have our try-catch block in. This is the Ionic app stuff. Ionic app initialization, and this is all the SQL stuff. So in here, you can see he's checking for the web platform, because when you use the web platform, you're working with this Jeep SQLite plugin, which is a wrapper around the SQL.js. So we're going to just drop that code in here, and we're going to just say right here, web specific functionality. All right. And basically what this is doing, it is creating an element. It's appending the SQLite element to it. It's waiting for the SQLite, for the custom element, waiting for it to be defined. And then it's just logging after it's defined. And then here it's we're calling the init web store to initialize the web store for SQL that got created through this Jeep SQLite. All right, so that's what is going on here. Let's see, do we have anything we could... These are all promises that if there's an error, they will throw, and we will catch down here at the bottom. All right, so this now, if this all runs successfully, then our web is initialized. So let's take a look over here. So we're after a init web store. So that means that our web has been initialized. So now, once again, we're just following along their solution, and then we'll expand it later. What they're doing next is they are creating a database and doing some checks. And so this check consistency, so from what I found from doing research, this is used to see if you already have a connection, is the connection still valid? And then this next one actually tries to see if there's a connection. And then down here, it says, if my connection to SQLite is good, and if I have a connection, then retrieve that existing connection. Otherwise, create a new connection. This is the database name. I have to take a look and see what false is. It'll show up when I paste this code in with the TypeScript. This is saying I want no encryption. This is the inversion, and this is whether or not it's read-only. And it's saying it's false. So let's copy all of this code. Just explain what it is, so at least there's an understanding. Cutting and pasting without understanding can lead to many issues, so hopefully I explained it as best I can. So now after all this is done, it's going to return a SQLite DB connection. Let me see, was I right? So database, encrypted, mode is no encryption. Oh, that one was the version, and then the read-only is false. So that's what's going on there. All right, so at this point I should have a database. Then we open the database. It's going to console log for database was open. We create a query. We're just going to create a simple, if the table does not exist, we're going to create a table in there. It's just going to have a field, which is an ID, and a text field called name. Then we're going to execute, so then this is execute the query to put the, insert the first table. This will give us a response from that. And then we're going to close. We will do a little bit more. I think we're going to add a record and then do a query to make sure that the record got added. So I think everyone's with me on the code, so I'm just going to do a big copy now. And just put it, you want to put it, all right, so if that, else that, and then we have our DB up here, so I can put my code down here. And it looks like it automatically put an extra closing. All right, so let me see. If the web, then do the web stuff. Oh yeah, we want to close this. And then this is all default stuff, irregardless of if it's web or not. Okay, so then now we're going to manipulate the database. And so we're going to open a database. We're going to execute this query here to create a table if it doesn't exist. And then we're going to execute it and we're going to get a response. We don't care about this. And then here's where they kind of close the database, but we're going to do a little bit more. So we're going to call this we are going to call this the create table query, create table, so that we kind of know what's going on. And then we'll call this response create CT for create table. We don't want to close yet. Okay, and then down here, we're going to create another query and another response. And so let's copy this. And then let's do add test record to DB and query create record. And this is a simple insert. So let me see how we're going to do a simple insert. So this is our create table query, and you execute, and then what is this respect? Not redeclare. Oh, okay. All right, so that's a response create table, and this we'll just call this response insert. And response insert. And then we will create our query here. Let's just, we'll just insert it in place. So we're going to delete this. And then what we will do is we will create our own query here. And let's do this. And then we're going to say insert into, and our table name is test. And then we're going to say ID, comma name, values, and so that's our query, and then we need to give it the values. And to create a unique identifier, and to create a unique, this looks like it'll all fit on one line. Let's move that up there. Put this on the end. We're just going to say date.now. That'll generate a unique number. Well, not unique, but it's a time. It's good enough for now. And then we're going to just say name. And then to make it random, we're going to basically steal this date now. So this way we can see different names being added with different values. And this needs to be changed to query. See, because the query provides for the statement and then the values. So insert into test ID name, the values are ID, values name. And I think this has probably been, yeah, it was execute null constraint. Yeah, it was failing before because it didn't have a name. So let's save this. Because every time I save it, it's actually going to be running. So you can see it's been running. So it inserted the record. And then now the last part before it closes it, let's get a query result. And so we're going to copy this. And we'll take this down here. And we're just going to call this QueryDB. QueryDB, and this is the response from the select, because it's a select statement. And then we'll copy this down here and we'll say dump what the response is for the select. And then we're going to say select from test star. And there are no parameters. That's the DB query. Let me format this. Make sure this is right. So QueryDB, response select, await query, select star from test. Let's save and see what we get. And we get our responses. So these are all the different entries that I added. So that's the first one, that's the second one. Let's see if I refresh this, I should get a third one. And I'm getting a third one, so the inserts are working. So the stuff's getting written into the database. And that's what we wanted to know. So at this point, now let's actually test and see if it's going to work on device. Because the next thing we want to do is we're going to move all of these functions out and kind of put them in a separate service, kind of put a UI on this so you can do some basic CRUD. So let's open up our Ionic panel and let's build. So now it's built, and let's now add iOS. All right, iOS has been added, and then now let's run it. And I'm going to run it on my simulator. Okay, I need to set up a development team, so let's click OK. Let's open this in Xcode. And let's go into signing capabilities. And let's change this. Okay, Ionic Starter SQLite. All right, so now it's all set up. Provisioning profile. Let's go back in here and let's try to run this thing again. So let's run it on the simulator. So we're building our app. It launched, but it's kind of hard to see what's going on because we don't have anything on the output. So let's open up Safari. And now that Safari's open, let's open up a developer window, localhost. Zoom in a bit, click on our console. Let's refresh our app. And you can see that it ran, did everything it's supposed to do. It checked the consistency, created the connection, opened the connection, executed the initial query. Then this is the other query where it inserted. Then this is the query where we asked for the results, and you can see we get the results of all the entries. Then we close the connections. So we know that the application is working, but it'd be nice if we had a little bit of a UI on top of this. So let me show you a way for you to kind of break this out and get this functionality out of here and into your application, and kind of just list the results here on the page. So we'll leave this initial check for the database connection and to kind of create the table at startup. We'll leave it here. It could be moved out somewhere else, but like I said, I'm just trying to give you the basics on how to get the SQLite integrated into your application and how you might want to create a database service, use composables to manage it, use a Pina store to manage it, use vuejs, like all that I will leave up to you. I just want to show you how to, like I said, get it integrated, basically create some tables at startup if they do not exist, and then manipulate the data. So the first thing we will do is we will, let's move this out of the way. Let's open up our browser because we know that it will work on the browser also. And let's start our browser back up again. And what we will do is we will move some of these queries out. So let's go to our, where do we want to go? Let's go to our home page. And what we're going to do is put some of the code into our home page. So let's go into our split screen. Let's go into our home page. This is basic Ionic content in here. So let's go in here and we're just going to do a simple list as a result of the query. So we can say Ion item, Ion item. Let me move my mic a little bit to better location. All right, Ion item. And then we'll render inside of our Ion item. We will, I just found putting an Ion label in here helps this, label, and then putting my content inside of the label. So in here, let's say item item.name. And then up here, we will do a v4 item from items. And then we have to do our key, and that will be item.id. Okay. And before has an invalid question. All right, so let's start to create some of our variables that we need down here on the bottom. Let's go down here underneath our import, and we'll start with a const items equals ref any. I really want to go down the TypeScript path with you all today. All right, let's give it a try. So it should be, actually let's not. Let's just keep this simple for now. Import ref from view. So now we have items. Just going to complain item from items. There's my ref script setup. Item, item, item. What is it? Did I set up my v4 incorrectly? Oh, in. There we go. This is what happens when you do with a lot of different programming languages. It's easy to start to get confused with them. Okay, so this will hold our items, but we need a way to get our items. And we need to understand that this is Ionic Framework. And since this is Ionic Framework, we can't do it on mounted because the components stay in memory. So we need to use the Ionic LifeCycle events. And what we can do is, I believe it's on Ion, where's the other one? I get them mixed up. On Ion, Vue will enter. Well, let's say Vue did enter. I'm not certain which one is better or worse, so I'll just use that one. So basically what we want is that when the view is, why am I putting my code in here? When the view is entering, we need to actually load the data. So let's put this up here where it needs to be. So when the view did enter, we want to do all of this stuff in here. We need to, where are we? We don't need to do the web specific stuff because that's already done once. And the store is initialized. But you see here, everything's getting closed. And so there's two ways you can do it. You can, we'll basically re-instantiate everything inside of our home page. So what we'll do is we'll come up here, and once we know, so we're going to have to do all this stuff. We need to get our SQLite connection. We need to do all this stuff, check the consistency and everything so that we can get a connection. And then we'll leave the open and closing the database to each specific call. So let's now import all this stuff. Like I said, you can, this is a SQLite connection. Like I said, you can package this up into a composable, use it with vuejs, kind of however else you might like it. But for now, I'm just going to put it all in here to kind of keep it simple and not go into different, touch on a bunch of different concepts. But some of the things, so like we need the database outside of here. So what we'll do is for the database, we will make this a reference. So we'll say const db equals ref. And they go like this. And what does this return? This returns a SQLite DB connection. So we can set that type there. And let's import that. And then what we want to do is we will assign our database here. So value and value. Right, so now we have the database, which is what we need. We need to be able to open and close the database. And so that's what we're going to do on entering. And then on the opposite end of that is the on Ion Vue will leave. We'll basically shut it down. So let's go down here. That's on enter. And on leaving, we will shut everything down. Let's make this async. And then let's go down to the bottom and you see all the, basically what it's doing, it's just calling this close connection. Is closing the DB? Let me check his. I'm just gonna close the connection. It looks like. Yeah, let me move this out also. And this one is just a SQLite connection. Clean that up. And then what we'll do is we'll set that in here. Dot value. And then all right, let's format this. All right, so what we're doing is when we enter, we're making sure that we get our SQLite value, we check our connection, we open up our database if we have a connection. So that's what we always do when we enter this component. And then when we leave, we make sure we close the connection. All right. Now, also what we want to do when we enter a component, we want to actually load the data. So let's create our function to load the data. Const load data. And to load data, we'll just take this query. Let's take this out of here. Inside of here, we're going to load data. And this will be async. And this DB query, so we need a value here because this is the ref. And then we get our response. Save, format. And this is the response select. And then I'm on my home page now. Let's see, see how we're doing. Okay. All right, I need to add some Ionic components. I always forget to add them. So let's add ion item, ion label. And so what do we got now? Okay. Values. This is still coming from main though, which we don't. Let's see. Actually, let's comment out all this stuff because we're going to move all that. So let's remove that. All we want to do is when you start up, if I don't have the database table, let's go all the way over. When I start up, if I don't have the table, create the table. Create the table, then close it and keep it moving. So let's refresh this now. Oh, I got to save. Refresh. Where's my console? All right. So now we have our load data. So let's call load data here after the view is entered. And see what we get. Oh, select database. Database is not open. Oh, I didn't open it because I want, so my bad. Right here, we want to do db.value.open. And let's await this. And at the end, let's close it. So basically what we're doing is we're opening and closing a database for every database action, which I don't think is a problem. All right, so now let's refresh. And so now on load, I'm getting my values. And then now let's do this. Let's set items dot value equal to my response select dot values. Response select dot values, yes, which should be the array responses. So let's refresh, and we're getting our data. So these are all of our entries that have been added. So that is our load data. What else do we want to do? We clearly, let's keep the UI simple and just put an add data at the top. So what we'll do is we'll come back up here, and inside of here we will say Ion input type equals text, and we will close that out. And then let's wrap this in an Ion item just for some space. And let's see what this looks like. So, all right, so that's where we want to add it. Let's just separate it here. Let's say H3, the data. So we get a little bit of space. All right, so we get a little bit of space there. Let's add this. This is not. I'm not going for style points here. Ion padding. All right, and so here's where we're going to enter some data. Okay. So this is where we're going to enter some data, and then let's put our save button. Save. And now we need to add the guys in blue, mean they're not imported yet. Let's go down here. Ion item. That has been done, so Ion button. Ion input. Okay, and so this we're going to save. And where did my button? See if I can fix this a little bit. So slot. End. Is it slot end? Yeah, slot end. So now I got my button on the end. When I want to do an insert on a click to add it to my data. So that's what we're going for here. So on here, let's do click add item, and where you'll create that function. Let's go down here. Do a select of the database. Do an insert to database. follow the exact same pattern. So let's just copy all of this. Not the exact same pattern, but we need to open, we need to execute something, and we can start pulling these, we can pull that out. Actually, let's at least catch appropriate errors. And let's deal with the type. So for the type, this is going to have to be error as any. What can I? That's better. So now let's copy this because we want to do appropriate error catching. So let's go back up here and save that. And so here we're going to insert, actually we're going to remove the comment, but at a minimum we know we need to open a database and then we need to do our insert. So what we'll do is we will just, let's just remove it from here and leverage it. So let's do this and then let's copy this and let's just drop it in here. And we have to put the values again. And then we're going to insert to test, except we want the name to come from our local value here. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this to input name. And we don't have that. So we're going to still use the same approach for unique identifier. We are going to get our name from the user. So let's create another variable here. And then let's go up here and let's fix this vue plus. And on my text, let's do a vmodel. This should work. And then input name. So as I change the name, it gets set to my input. And then when I add the item, my name should be what gets inserted. We're going to remove the console log. We're going to close the database. Then we're going to do a load data since we're not really watching because we want to update the UI. So update UI. And then here we're going to call load data. And that will update the UI. And let's put an await on here. And let's see what we get. So let's refresh the page using my data and ARON, save, okay, query all undefined, failed select, okay. All right, what's going on? Oh, well, let's refresh and see what did we get. All right, so it did not even insert it. So let's look at my code. So I'm opening the database. Date now, input name. Oh, this should be input name dot value. My bad. Let's try again. Refresh. Save. It added my name to the database. Let's refresh the database. Make sure it's still there. And so my name is still there. Let's do a couple of other things. Let's do this. Let's make sure that no matter what happens, we clear out the input name field. Input name value equals blank. And let's also make sure if there's any errors, that in the end we also close the database. So let's remove this close. I think I can remove this close. And we should be good to go. I'm not doing anything with this response. If there's an error, it'll throw an error and we'll catch it down here. So I don't need to do anything with the response. We probably want to do the same thing down here. We don't need to clear the database name, but we definitely want to make sure we close it, try to close the database. So let's get rid of that. And let's try to close the database. Let's refresh. So we added a name. And let's delete a name. Do we want to check? Let's check the mobile app to see how things look on the mobile app. So let's save this. And let's go back to Ion. Here, let's stop the web so it doesn't start acting funny on us. And let's stop the mobile app and let's run it again. Okay, this does not look like what we expected. So let's see what's going on. I would have thought the run guide. Let me just make sure I build it. Let's just rebuild it. And then now let's deploy it. All right, there we go. So we have some data in here from when we ran it on the phone. Let's add a new one. And it adds it and clears the field. So things are moving along properly. So let's, I don't want to kind of get too deep in this and spend a lot of time on UI, because that's not what we're here for. We're here to just kind of get everything working. So let's close this. Let's go back to main. Is there anything left in here? Okay, so we've cleaned everything out of main, so we can close it because there'll be no more modifications to main. And let's get back to our home page and focus on it. So we have adding an item. We have loading all the data for the items. Let's delete an item because that's pretty straightforward. So let's just copy all of this code. So all it's really going to be is a change of the query. And what we will say is delete item. And we'll, as usual, open the database, and then we'll say delete from test where, ID equals question mark. And then all we need here is the ID. And the ID will be a number. And we will, so let's just get this out of here and say ID. And the same thing, we upload, update, we load the data, and then we shut everything down. So now let's add our button and delete item. So where are we? Where's my UI? So here's my UI. Let's do this. So we'll go down here. We'll say delete item. Delete. And we will pass in item dot ID. All right, and let's refresh. Oh, I need to start up my web application again. Okay, so let's delete this 2218, and it did not work. Let's see, what did I do wrong? But developer tools. All right, well, it seems that I was unable to delete Aaron Saunders because of the way I structured my code. So let me fix that. So what's happening is that I'm not closing the database here, and then it's opening the database and trying to do some other action. So I believe that this is what's causing the problem. So let's try, and so now it makes it almost seem like this load data here is excessive. I already have the database open. I always have everything I need. I just really need these two statements. So I'm going to pull these out, because this is okay. It opens the database, and then it's going to jump and close. It's not going to do anything else. So, but these load data, it does two things. It executes this statement, and then it attempts to load the data again. And my load data code is opening a database and doing all this other stuff. So I believe that that's what's throwing it off. So what we're going to do is we're just going to insert these statements in here. So we will insert, and then we'll do the select all inside of this add item block. And then we'll close the database at the end. And we need to do the exact same thing on a delete. So let's go up to my delete and change this. Leave the update UI there. We'll delete this line, delete this line. We don't need the response from that, so let's remove that. And so now, hopefully, this will work appropriately. Let me put my semicolon on the end there. Put my semicolon on the end there. That's proper SQL. Semicolon on the end there. Okay, let's give this a run. So let's refresh this. Let's try to delete Aaron again. And Aaron is deleted. So that seems to have solved the problem. Let's try to add myself back to make sure that the add item is still working. Add item is working. Let's refresh to make sure the whole refresh is working. So that all seems to be fine. Now we need to check how things are looking on device. So let's open this up. Let's go back to my Ionic, and let's stop my web application, and let's start my iOS. Let's open up my simulator and let this load. Okay, let's delete this first 2138. It deleted it appropriately. Let's just add another one. New entry. And it adds a new entry. So we're working fine on iOS. So now let's go back to the web and let's stop this. We don't want to rerun it. So we stopped it. Let's start the web again. And so we have our add and we have our delete. I guess we need an update. How do we want to do the update? Let's see, what's the easiest way to do this? Because once again, we're not here for, this isn't a style exercise. This is just a, you know, getting it working on device and also working in a web browser. So can I select an item and then get the item's information to appear up here? Let's try that approach. So first of all, let's create our button. So go down here. And we are going to say edit item. and we're going to pass the whole item, and let's take this slot off. Take this slot off and just get them showing there on the end next to each other. And let's go down and create our edit item. So edit item is going to do two things. One, we need to identify which is the selected item that we're going to edit. And then based on that, we want to change the UI a little bit to let them know that they're editing. We're probably going to need to add a save and a cancel button up here, just to keep it straightforward. So actually, let's just create a whole separate UI component, because that would probably make it easier. So let's do this. So we can create a template. And wrap another template here like this. And I believe that I can do can I do a vif on a template? Vif not edit mode. So if it's not in edit mode, then do this. Actually, doing it backward like that. So let's say if in edit mode, do this. If not in edit mode, do this. So in edit mode, we're going to say save. And when you're not in edit mode, it's an add item. So this is add, and this is update. Let's do it like that. So we're not in edit mode, so we have our add button. So that part's right. And we'll leave the add item. And then down here, when you click add, how are we? Oh, wait, that add is right. So no, that add's right. This is update. So here we want to, what we're going to do is let's just take the, let's do this. When you click here, we're going to get rid of all this, and we're going to say set edit item. Not set edit item. Let me get mixing with React. So edit item equals the current item equals item. Right? So when you click on this, we're going to assign a new value to the item that we want to edit. So let's do this. We'll just say const edit item equals ref. And we're going to just keep it as any. And we're going to say it's undefined. Right? And so we'll also use the edit item as the flag. So we'll change this now. So if edit item, so if I have edit item. So if I have an edit item, then I'm in edit mode. If I don't have an edit item, then I am adding a new item. Oh, and then what I also need is down here on my edit item, I need a cancel. Whoa, I'm too far down. Where's my template? Down here, update. Let's put our cancel button before it. This is cancel. And what we don't need to do anything here other than, I'm getting things mixed up. I apologize. If you're not editing, then you're adding. If you have an edit item, then what we want to do here is when you cancel, we want to set edit item equals undefined. So basically, we want to clear out the edit. So you see you have our cancel and our update, and then we cancel and we get back to add. And let's get rid of the slot stuff here. So we can get our buttons next to each other. Let's try again. Edit, and then cancel. And we go back. Okay. So now we have our buttons, and we can switch between our mode. Well, now we have our buttons, and we can switch between the modes. Let's see if I click edit. But what we want to do is we want to set this value to the value of the item that we believe we're editing. So what we do is we're going to actually I think I'm going to have to change my function a bit here because it's kind of getting crowded. So what we're going to do is when you click edit item here, we're going to change this to set edit item. And we're going to set it to item, and we're going to call this function. And let's go down here and create it. Let's create it down here. All right, we're going to set the edit item. We're going to have an item. And we need to do two things here. So the first thing we need to do is say edit item.value equals item. And we need to set input name.value equals item. Item dot name. So that will get that will get it displayed. So this is how we'll set edit item. And then what we'll do is we'll use the same code. So if item, then you set it, else. So if I don't pass the item in, then we're just going to kind of clear all these values. So we're going to set this to undefined, and we're going to set this back to blank. So this way we can go in and out of that edit state. So let's refresh this again, and let's go up. Let's use our set edit item function now. So we go up here, back to our template, give ourselves a little bit more room here. So if edit item, and you hit cancel, then we're going to call set edit item, but we're going to pass in undefined, because that's a cancel. Here where you want to edit, we already have the set item, so it's setting the item. And that's true. Should pass the data. All right, let's give it a go and see what it looks like. So let's refresh. I'm going to edit this name ending in 2129. Edit. We get the name 2129 in there. Cancel. It's removed. Edit. 2129. Edit. So I can just click on the ones that I want to edit, and then it gets updated. And then cancel. It clears it out, and it switches back. All right. So that's what we wanted. That's what we got. Now we need to actually save the change and update the record. So let's go down here. That's the delete item. Add item. We have the set item there. So let's do update item. update date in database. Okay, so test record database, so we update. Okay, so we're going to update this on the update item, and so we're going to say update test. Let's remove these values, and I believe we're going to say set name equal, I believe I can do a value like that, where ID equals value. And then we go in here and we don't want date now because we need to pass an item in here. And what we want here is we want item ID, and actually we don't pass an item in on update item. We are going to take edit item dot value, which is undefined, and that's the ID, but we want to set the name based on the input name that was entered in the field. Then we want to update the UI. Well, actually, after this finishes, let's clear out the edit item. So let's say edit. Actually, we can just use our set edit item. Set edit item equals undefined. That should clear out the values and put it back in its normal state, and then we should be able to update the UI. So, but now let's put our function into action. So let's go up to our save button. So that's the update. So that should change to update item. Add items there, update items there. Looks like everything's lined up. Actually, I can probably simplify this and say v else, I believe. So let's format this guy and let's see if we got this going. So let's refresh. Let me save. So let's refresh. Let's take this name. Let's edit it and just change name without ID. Update. And that does not look right. So let's see, where did I throw an error? More tools. Developer tools. This is better to look at the logs than guess. So console. Looks like it didn't even execute it. It's running. Okay, let's refresh it. Let's change this top one, 2129. Edit 2129. Remove ID, update. It's almost as if it's not even calling it. Update item. All right. Delete item, insert item, set item, update item. Open a database. Let's set a breakpoint here, see what's going on. And let's refresh again. We'll change this first one. Clear. Update. That looks right. Nope, I have them backwards. See, I have my input name as my second value and the ID is the first one. It should be the other way around. So that's the problem. It's not finding a match. So input name gets set on name where the ID matches the edit item ID. All right, let's give it another run. Okay, so Let's do this one right here again. Edit, name, no ID, update. Update test set name where ID. No, this didn't update because you can see the code is still wrong. So let's refresh again. Actually, let's empty cache hard refresh to make sure we're getting the latest. Try it again, edit. We'll just remove the ID. No ID. Let's step over it. Actually, let it rip. And it updated. So we can add an item. Add. There's a new item. We can edit the item. New item just added. We can update the item. And then we can delete the item. All right. And for the last part here, let's just test it on my phone. Well, on my simulator. So let's open this up again. Let's stop my browser. Let's run it on the simulator. Let's get this thing open. Well, 14. We'll let this guy cook. Okay, we have our application open. Let's just start by editing the new entry on device. Update, new entry on device. Let's test cancel, new entry on device. Hit cancel, nothing's changed. Now, so I just did edit. Now let's delete it. And then now let's create a new one. So we have the CRUD for create, we're update, create, read, we can get our list, update, we're able to make changes, and delete. So we have the basic CRUD implemented inside this application. I think, let me see, let me try to be a little bit better. Let's create a simple interface. We'll just go up here. SQL item is equal to ID, which is a number, UMBER, and a name, which is a string. And all right, so now let's take our SQL item and put it where it belongs. So oh, what's that? What's that doing? I want the whole thing. SQL item. Then let's take our SQL item down here and put it in here. So let's say SQL item or undefined. And then let's copy this. And where else did I use any? Our set item is a SQL item or undefined. We don't need it there. Don't need it there. Let's search, find any. There's one place left. We need this. This needs to be an array of items, I believe. And so let's see. Is it? So would it be SQL item array or undefined? I'm saying that as a question because I'm not even sure myself. But let's take a look at the code and see Let's start our web up again. And it looks like it's not complaining, so let me just step into the debugger to make sure that I have my type set up correctly. So let's go down in here. We just remove that debug. And it looks like everybody's happy. Open up my view panel. And I can see my home op page and go down to the bottom of setup. And here's my items. There's my name and ID items. So it looks like I've set my types appropriately. Okay, let's just make sure. Let's go down here. That is saying it's array of any's, but it's assigning the SQLite items are defined. So ref of that, which is value, which then is a ref, the value is SQLite items. All right, so it looks like I have my types and everything set up. Let's just, it's working fine here. Let's give it a hard refresh to make sure. Also, in case you didn't know, we're kind of heading into our wrap up. So yeah, it looks like everything's fine. Let's look at my console. I get no errors. Let's look at my compilation. I get no errors. And now let's put it on device. Okay, everything seems to be working fine. Okay, everything seems to be working fine. Let's take a look at an edit. Let's delete some of these numbers. Update, working fine, delete. So, yep, everything is good here running on device. So as I said, this was just a basic example to show you how to do the CRUD stuff, get your application set up to run on device or in the web browser, which we've demonstrated how to do. This wasn't meant to be, I wouldn't say pretty, but it was not meant to be a focus on the user interface. It was just how do I get this to work fine, basically run on device using Ionic Framework, the Capacitor SQLite plugin, and vuejs. Also to ensure that it's running on device and running on running in the web browser. So that it seems to be what we wanted to do. We've accomplished it, and all right, it's working on iOS. Let's see if we can get this going on Android quickly. So let's stop the web browser. Where is it? Let's close this preview. Let's add Android. All right, so we have Android support added. Now let's sync. So it's synced iOS, it's synced Android. Let's see. This is always the interesting part. Like, can we get an Android emulator to run? So let's click on this. All right. I haven't run this in a while. Let's click on 33, see if this gets started. I don't have the same success getting my Android emulators to launch as I do with my iOS emulator, but maybe today will be a different day. So let's see. All right, why did it fail? Android failed. What went wrong? Inverted plugin requires Java 17 to run. You're currently using Java 11. Okay. So it looks like I have some configuration issues. So I don't normally, looks like I need to update Java on this device. So let's get to that. Okay, so I've updated my system, and let's try to give this Android build a go. All right, so it looks like we're finally making some progress here. It usually takes a while for the emulator to get started up. I don't know if it's my device, if it's my configuration, or what it is, but it just usually starts up slowly. So it says it's completed. Let's switch over to Android Studio. See what we can find in the logcat. All right, well, it finally launched. It seems like it took a bit, but at least it launched. So let's see if we have all the features that we want here. So let's add first one. Add. We have, whoa, that was strange. Let's delete. Oh, so it looks like we have some delete issues. It's probably related to the fact that there's no ID. So what's it coming back with? Let's see. Let's add another one. Am I hung? Oh, there we go. It's just moving really slow. So it's adding them, deleting them, edit, second one. I wonder if these are related to the multiple instances of me trying to get this thing installed. So let's do this. Let's delete the app. Okay. So this is it, I believe. Uninstall. So we're going to uninstall it, so that should delete everything. And let's install it again. Because now it's clean, there's no data there. We should get an empty database when we first start up. See how much faster it started up once you have the emulator running. And so now let's try and add some data. All right, that's what we want. Aaron, Bryce, add Andrea, add. So that's everyone have added. Now the next test is, let's shut it down. Let's reopen. And we have all our data here. Let's edit Aaron. Update. Aaron, Bryce. Something's adding. It's like it's getting multiple click events and adding an extra record. And then once that record gets added, it can't get deleted. That's interesting. It did get deleted. Let's try and add again. And what did I do? I edited it. I wonder if it's getting like multiple click events. Delete. Edit. I don't know. Well, all the code will be posted. If you see some issue or if you track down what this bug is, please let me know and I will run it down for you. But it looks like we didn't have to make any additional modifications to get it to run on Android. Just kind of worked. So now we have it running in the web, we have it running on Android, and we have it running on iOS. Hope you find this helpful. Please make sure you like and subscribe, and I will chat with you later.